One moment. I'll start it at the 4 minute mark. So when you're here, please wait till the 4 minute mark. Or if you're playing the live stream, you can go back to the 4 minute mark right now. Alright, so one moment over here. I'm putting the live chat on the screen now so I can see all over here. Hold on. Wait a moment. Okay. So visible from here. All right. I see Suzanne is here. That's great. Okay. I still have around 2 minutes more to go. Thanks for the 4 thumbs up. Thank you very much. Again, when you're here, let me know in the live chat, please. Thank you. I'll start at 4 minutes. All right. Let me see. Suzanne's here, Daniela's here, Demetria is here. All good? I'll start at 4 minutes. So 1 more minute to go. All right. You see the screen over there, so it looks good. Praise the Lord. So, let me begin. Okay, equilibrium is a Latin phrase. The Kansas believer is doing well. He has a victory going on over there for him. And the Asians trying to set them up, they're crashing now, praise the Lord. So, as well as the police, as well as there was a resignation from a top police officer also. So praise God. But anyway, thank all for your prayers for the brother. Is this 4 minutes already? But anyway, I'll begin. Equilibrium, Latin. There's not going to be a Latin class, okay? So I'm not going to throw Latin phrases here and there. Equilibrium simply means when you have a balance between actions forces. All right, there's something to remember. Let's see. Shani, I'm glad you're here. Praise the Lord. So that's an equilibrium. Okay, equilibrium is also used in English language to refer to a state of mind of ease. Okay, also used for bodily harmony. That means we have the right nutrition and in the right amount. But these are sub-meanings of equilibrium. Equilibrium, when it comes to human communities, has to do with a balance between opposing actions and forces. This has to do with the status quo Okay, this is Latin, status quo ante bellum. Bellus is war, and status is a state of being, so the state before the war. Or, in our modern day English language, we call this the status quo. Alright? But the real term is the state before the war. Because this is something the ancient Greeks were also who were behind Rome also made plain was that human communities need a type of balance for them to function. Well, that's biblical even. And even without the Bible, we can understand this. But the balance they were talking about, the status quo ante bellum, refers to a balance in conflict. Okay? Because remember, there's a difference between community and society. I explained already. Community are the human beings living together. Society is this construct adults enact to escape difficulty in life. Okay, so society is similar to a cult, while community are the actual people living together. Community often is local and small. It doesn't have to. Community can also be immense. For example, say the black community, I mean all people from African ancestry worldwide. It can or it can mean, let's say, the Hampshire community, people that live in Hampshire together. So society and community are not the same. When it comes to society, okay, I'm gonna show it over here. Society is a balance in violence. It's about managing conflict. All right? And this is what you need to remember. Managing conflict. Right over here. So, in society, it's about managing conflict. So, society is based on seeking a balance in violence. That's where you get the skills from. Now, in ancient Egypt, also uses skills. So it's not that by definition. I mean, the skill as a symbol for societal balance or equilibrium. It's not something that the ancient Greeks invented. The ancient Egyptians also used it. Okay. However, with the ancient Romans, it became the norm for how they govern everything. With the ancient Egyptians, it was more on the religious level. With the ancient Greeks and Romans, or the ancient Greeks, it became the way they do their empire and their societies. So, that's why they use themis, this Greek female Nephilim as a symbol of justice. And it's also called Lady Justice, but it's just a Nephilim. So it's devil worship. Now, why the symbol of a goddess? Because those goddesses required one thing: blood sacrifice, namely the lives of young men often. So this here works like this. Let me give an example. You have two camps. Let's say here you have two camps. Both camps want the same thing: to escape. So I'm going to symbolize it down here. Can you all see it well? Let me check. All right, let me go down. So here, let's see, here you have the farmers. You know what? Here you have the farmers, and here also you have the civilians who live in the cities. Here you have the aristocracy and the rich families. And also you have the plantation owners who have slaves, okay? So it's one camp, it's another camp. They both want to be left alone or relieved. That's what both want. But both want to be left alone in a different way. These ones over here want to preserve their financial privilege. Okay, privilege. Okay, want to preserve financial privilege. These one over here want to have certainty about ease in the community. All right? Now, you have two groups. They both want the same thing, to be left alone. But the way they want to be left alone is different. The farmers and civilians just want to have ease. They want certainty that they have food, that they have enough water, and that they can have calm in daily life. Those over here, the only thing that keeps them safe is the financial privilege they have. So, it's going to lead to conflict. This itself is a conflict. So what happens now? When tension arises, because it can be that the plantation owners want to get more slaves from the farming community, but the farming community doesn't want that. It can be that the aristocrats now decide to go a certain direction with the economy, saying we need to trade more, let's say with Asia or whatever, and the public thinks, well, we're going to prefer our own people, or it can be the people here. They are neglectful towards their own, so now there's a lot of poverty there, and now the aristocrats are thinking if there's so much poverty, it's going to lead to their financial privilege being depleted, so it's going to be a conflict. In order for both to achieve this being left alone, this is what happens. Okay, hold on. It's going to be, can you see it over here? Hold on. It's going to be a pyramid scheme in which you have, here you have the, let's call this one the left, this one the right. You're going to have a pyramid scheme in which you have the left over here, right over there, and above them you have what you call the priest class, and here you have the wizards. And in this pyramid scheme, the left and the right are competing on how to be left alone. the priest class is there to justify this whole conflict. And the wizards are the ones ruling the priest class. So eventually it's the priest class that keeps all of this going. And this is society. It's a pyramid scheme. Alright, so society operates by having opposing parties. Often just two parties, sometimes just multiple parties, and all of them want to escape. Because fallen mankind is all about escaping. And they manage to provide escapes to the public by keeping them divided in various opinions, in various categories, while the priest class drains the conflict going on. So this is how society operates. So, society is a conflict. So society is all about balancing the violence. And that's why you have this thing called social class. Okay, let me split over here. Social class. Social class is about your ability to retaliate. That's what social class comes down to. Now, I know sociologists out there, hey, I'm a sociologist myself, I know a lot of sociologists out there will come up with complicated explanations on what social class is, and social class is not always easily seen, but I'm going to keep it simple for you. Social class refers to your ability to retaliate. Okay? Think about it. Let's say that you were born on a farm somewhere in England. Okay? If one day there is this noble guy coming by and demanding a plot of your land, because of his connections to the government and to the military, he can get away with taking a portion of your land. So in that case, you don't have much ability to retaliate. Now, if you do retaliate, it's going to lead to repercussions on your own community. So nobody wants, but then you will have retaliation of retaliation. So you have someone with a lot of money coming around exploit someone with doesn't have much money. Then the people who don't have much money retaliate in a violent way, either kidnapping some of the children of the rich guy, or by harassing him, or by burning down his buildings or his house, whatever. And then you have the public retaliating again. That's how you get violence after violence. So, in society, there's an arrangement that based on your financial ability to retaliate against someone else, you're categorized. So people that are working class are considered people who don't have many financial means. So they cannot retaliate. People who are middle class are those who can retaliate to some extent. Those who are called upper class can easily kill you and get away with it often. That's how the pyramid is divided in social class. So social class refers to who is able to retaliate. And of course, within the pyramid scheme of society, there needs to be people who have zero ability to retaliate. Because if everyone can retaliate, then you have conflict on and on and on. And people end up draining one another, and before you know it, you have no communities anymore. Because you have one bloodshed after the other. So, in this pyramid scheme of society, there is a catch. While the conflicts go on, the purpose of keeping this conflict going on is to have a portion of the population who are left out. Average society leaves a portion of its own people out for this reason. Because the people who are left out are the ones that will carry the weight of all the contention. Those are the scapegoats. So, based on this model, that are used in the world. Crime will never stop. There are two types of crime. You have crime in which a human being is hurt or harmed, and then you have crime in which you just don't give in to an expectation. For example, if you don't pay taxes, it's considered a crime. But this actually harms someone else. No, because the government can print money and do whatever you want to do anyway. It's just that you didn't give in to an expectation. That's why you consider a criminal. And then you have crime where actually a human being is hurt. Now, when I talk about crime, I'm talking about crime in which a human being is actually hurt, or multiple human beings. I'm not talking about social conventions that you don't hold on to, for example, paying taxes. So I have to explain what's behind taxes. Taxes are a psychological method to clock people together in anxiety. That's all taxes are. The government doesn't need your financial tributes, and well, they're the ones that are controlling the flow of the currency. Tax is about keeping you trapped. But anyway, let me bring this up again. Okay, let's see if this remains well. So you understand now that crime is part of society. Society itself is a crime because people just want to be left alone. This "we want to be left alone" attitude is in conflict with reality, because reality shows that both communities as well as individual human beings ought to participate in life. If people keep running away or keep wanting to ditch accountability, then nothing works. So the masses, they want things to work, but they don't want to have they don't want to deal with the consequences of making things work. They expect things to fall out of the sky and they can just take it without having any obligations. That's what the masses are looking for. The masses want a handout without them having to be responsible and accountable for any outcome. So the masses do want it to be, they do want honorable adults, but they don't want to be involved in raising children into those adults. They want to put all the weight on the parents. If you put all the weight on the parents, it's going to go wrong at some point. And when it goes wrong, they blame the parents for not doing a good job. Here's the thing: as human beings, we live in groups. Hold on, let me see. Okay? And because we live in groups, and somebody decided to operate, everyone in the group has an obligation to have a positive influence on the youth. Everyone. That's how reality is. But most people don't want to have any accountability and responsibility, so they'll put all on the parents. Okay? But putting all the blame on the parents, how the children turn out, is actually ridiculous. But that's what a lot of people do because they want to escape. So this being left alone attitude is in conflict with reality. But because broadlinks don't want to face themselves, don't want to face one another, they distract themselves with fighting other groups. Enmity is a distraction for worldlings to not have to face themselves. Worldlings want to have enemies to fight so that they don't have to look at themselves and look within. This is something politicians understand. This is something the wizards understand. This is something devil worshippers understood throughout human history. Human beings without Christ, so human beings that don't do the will of the Heavenly Father, they want enemies to fight. If there are no enemies, then they have to look into the mirror and look at each other like, man, we're messed up, we're dysfunctional, we're the ones effective here. They don't want to go there. They absolutely don't want to go there. So that's why they are always looking for some opposition to fight. So based on this, we can conclude that worldly people don't want peace. Peace requires internal cleansing, which will reflect on the outside how you relate to other people. But for there to be an internal cleansing, you need to look within. You need to face yourself. And not only you, but everyone in the community has to face themselves. Worldlings want to go there. So the one thing required for peace they don't want to do, that is looking within. Because once you look within, you realize, you know what? I'm just a vulnerable, fragile creature We here as a community, we consist of vulnerable and fragile creatures, and we need the Heavenly Father to be our leader. The moment you don't want to look within and you want to admit your need for the Heavenly Father's guidance, there can be no peace. So worldlings are not innocent in peace. So knowing this, the whole notion of regular people being innocent victims of evil goes out of the window. Look, there are victims out there, okay? It's not only children can be victimized, adults can be victimized also. So there are victims out there. But not everyone that's victimized is a victim. Because most of the people out there are collaborators. Okay? Most of the people out there are collaborators. Why? Because the one thing for peace they don't want to do. So if you don't want to do the thing required for peace, it means you've rejected peace. So what you get instead is a counterfeit. And that's the equilibrium we're talking about here. This equilibrium or this societal ease. Okay, here I call it balance, but it's better to call it ease. This societal ease is a counterfeit for the actual peace we should have. So, this means that this means that all the violence on the earth, with no exceptions, are the result of human beings refusing to comply with justice. Simple as that. What is justice? Justice is recognizing what you are, a fragile and vulnerable creature. Recognize that you don't own anything on the earth, and you need God. You recognize God's ownership of both you and the earth around you, and you need God to lead you. Complying with justice is operating in reality. That's what it is. When someone refuses to comply with reality, they are in on dysfunction and pollution. So, if everyone just operates in pollution, the people won't have no ease. There will be destruction all over the place. So, that's why society wants to put restrictions on everyone, and they want to relocate attention to fighting enemies. There's no such thing as a society without an enemy to fight. Every society needs enemies. And here's the kicker. Those enemies are always internal. The enemies of society are always internal. They may tell you, for example, the United States may tell you, oh, we're fighting the Taliban there in Afghanistan, or we're fighting Al-Qaeda, or we're fighting ISIS, or we're fighting Islamic terror, or we're fighting drug cartels in Mexico. All of that is nonsense. In the case of the United States, the population of the United States are provided imaginary scapegoats. Now, I'm not saying that there are no drug cartels in Latin America. I'm not saying that those Islamic terror groups don't exist. They do. But they are used as scapegoats for the people to be upset about. I mean, if you live, for example, in the state of Michigan, which constituent part of the United States, if you live in the state of Michigan, and there are certain places that don't have fresh drinking water coming out of the tap, you even had, I believe, I'm not sure what it was in Flint, Michigan, but there was one city several years ago, it was still under the Obama administration, several years, a while back, where you had lead poisoning, which is quite dangerous for a human body. But hold on a minute. So you had a neighborhood in the United States, in a city, where you had lead poisoning in the drinking water. The water was brown. But you had the US military fighting in Afghanistan, paying the salaries of the Afghan police and the Afghan forces. You also had the United States having military operations, I call them military operations, in Latin America against drug cartels. So you have all that fighting going on worldwide for American interests. But the main human interest of fresh drinking water couldn't even be guaranteed by the United States. What the heck is that? If you realize that your body has been poisoned for life due to lead poisoning in the water supply, even though you have to pay taxes and pay water bills, I'm sorry, but who's really your enemy over here? Is it those people in a cave in Afghanistan who wants to get rid of the country being occupied? Is it those people selling drugs in Mexico? Or is it your own community around you that allows this abuse to happen, that you don't have clean drinking water? The thing is, fallen mankind is neglectful. Worldly people are neglectful. Okay? Worldly people have this survival instinct that causes them to behave in a way to avoid danger. That's what they have. But apart from that, worldlings are neglectful. Now, there are exceptions, I know, but the rule is worldlings are neglectful. And this is something worldlings want to face about themselves nor those around them. So what they do, this darkness, this neglect, this poverty mindset, they project onto someone else. And this projection comes with aversion. Aversion is you dislike or hate something. Aversion is you emotionally oppose something. So disliking other people is all about you projecting your inner lack on them, with the expectation that this lack will be resolved by focusing on them and not on yourself. Now, reality shows you that this will never work. Absolutely not. It cannot work. However, on the short term, there will be ease just to get out of it. And that is what worldlings are after, is the ease. Worldlings are not in on the solution. Worldlings are not in on things getting better. Worldlings are all for the relief. And the fact that it won't last for long does not matter to them. All right. I had to open back the tablet to see the live chat. So, based on what we discussed here, crime is an ingredient of society. So crime will continue till the day Jesus Christ comes back. So if crime is an ingredient of society, then what is the police doing? They say the police are there to serve and protect. Okay, we're not going to deny that. They are there to serve and protect. But the question becomes, if society that requires crime to exist, and a society that employs police officers, then what are police officers serving and protecting? They can't be serving and protecting you. Why? Because the system requires there to be enemies to fight. So that shows you that the police is there to police the conflict. That's what they do. The police is policing, so they keep the conflict in check. That's all they do. They're not there to solve issues nor to resolve conflicts. They're not. So the police is in on crime. Crime, which is the fuel of society, is also what pays their salary. If there is no crime, why would you need police? So the police needs crime to exist. So every police station and every police department has this code. They only focus on the crime, on the individual incidents that will keep society at ease. It can, for example, be that there's a lot of robberies going on. But the police is not interested in dealing with the robberies. Now, why is the police not interested in dealing with the robberies? It is because the robberies are a result of low wages. Okay? Many people can't take care of their families because the wages are low, and well, the economy is actually about to collapse. So if you increase the wages, it's going to be detrimental. So a lot of people join gangs just to have an extra income to provide for families. Now, why doesn't the police address the roots and work on solving the issue? No, the only thing they do is once in a while, when a burglary happens or a robbery occurs, they arrest the perpetrator and then put the perpetrator behind jail, and then the courthouse convicts the individual to a prison term. That's what they do. They don't go to the root because the root is necessary for society to exist. And another thing, the police doesn't get enough money to deal with all the issues in the community. It can be there's a lot of credit card fraud going on. It can be there's a lot of child molestation going on. It can also be there's a lot of domestic violence going on. But the police only gets enough money to deal with credit card fraud, not with domestic violence. Why? Because society is a conflict in itself, and it needs conflict to remain. Take away the conflict and worldlings have to face themselves. And when worldlings have to face themselves as a group and as individuals, they will lose their mind and begin to explode on one another. And that's a situation people don't want. So that's why conflict has to continue. So the police is in on the conflict. So yes, police are there to serve and protect. Who does the police serve and protect? The conflict of society. Police not there to serve and protect you. Never. So that is why you should view the police as a tool that's helpful in some circumstances. If someone is stalking you with a knife around your house, you can call the cops and have them removed. Or if someone is about to kidnap, if someone tried to kidnap your daughter, or if your daughter has been missing, you call the cops to file a missing persons report. So the police, you can use them as a tool in specific circumstances. But the police is not an institution you should ever put your trust in. First of all, the origin of the police is pagan. And they also use pagan symbolism all the time. The modern day police comes from the Spanish Empire. That is derived from slave patrols during the transatlantic slave trade. We know that. I've explained that before. So the origin of the police itself is not noble. So why do you expect nobility from the police? You shouldn't. All right. Let me see. And here's the thing. That you need to understand. If there is not enough conflict in a community, they will make up something. Oh, Rashid, are you telling me they'll just make up stuff just to get us stressed out? Yes, they will. If there isn't enough conflict, they will make up something, okay? Either they will have a hoax event. For example, there is this so-called shooting that happened, but the shooting never really happened. It's a fake news message about some shooting. And people get terrified, like, oh my God, this is going on again. Just get you stressed out. Once you're stressed out, you begin to then they assign someone to blame. For example, you can have a media report saying that most crime are committed by, let me give an example to you. For example, you can have a Dutch newspaper that says that most crime in the Netherlands are committed by people from Moroccan ancestry. Now, if that's written in a newspaper, you expect them to come with some proof. Where are the statistics? Show me the statistics and show me the data. They may show you some graph and misinterpret it. I'm an anthropologist and sociologist, so I know how people manipulate statistics, okay? Just to get a point across. I know how they do that. What happens when you read a newspaper that most crimes are committed by Moroccans? You are conditioned to perceive any Moroccan you see out there as a potential criminal. And that is another conflict that the political leaders enact. Why? Because the society needs conflict for this ease, this being left alone sensation to remain. This being left alone is a sensation the crowd is craving. For that sensation to remain, there must be conflict. It can also be, and this also happens a lot, is that they conduct trauma rituals on the masses. For example, and I'm using a Dutch example right now because the Netherlands has a lot of trauma rituals conducted on the public. And for some reason, the Dutch public simply can't figure out that they're being scammed in this. But anyway, I hope that there are Dutch believers watching this and we actually figured it out now. Let me give an example of a trauma ritual. You have this girl that goes missing. This teenage girl goes missing. Teenage Dutch girl goes missing. Then on TV, you see the parents sad because our daughter is missing. Where is she? And then they show you she went missing over there. And they can continue with this for years. Ask what happened to her. What happened to this girl? Who knows information? Please tell us. Well, all along, they know what happened to her. They kidnapped her, tortured her with rape rituals to generate trauma, and then they killed her as an off-sacrifice to Satan. And they also buried her body ritually somewhere. So people know what happened. People in the media, so it's not even officials in the government, they know what happened. Because they know that they've done this, that there's conflict in the community, because the conflict keeps the trauma going. And demons, which are reactive parasites, feed off of human trauma. So to feed the demons, they ritually brutalized and killed a teenage girl. And now the parents have no idea what happened. The parents are actual victims here. And the community is stressed out. They do such things. Trauma rituals. They don't only do those things to teenage girls. They do it to grown folks also. But anyway, generating conflict is a way to keep this societal ease going. Because worldlings are all about the societal ease. That's what motivates them. Without societal ease, they're not motivated. So, there are two outcomes here. If the societal ease fades away, worldlings will be losing their minds on a daily basis, escalating on one another. That's a horrible view you don't want to experience. Or, you keep the societal ease going, but the only price you have to pay is to make sure a portion of the population is victimized on a regular basis. So, never expect there to be any solution in society. Because society needs conflict. Whether it's left wing versus right wing, whether it's conservative and versus liberal, or Catholic versus Protestant, secular versus religious, or whatever divisions are there, or feminists against men, or women against the red pill community. Yeah, you also have that. But by the way, you have various pill communities for men who have issues with females. I'm not condemning red pillers here. I'm just saying learn how to deal with feminine nature, the way God designed it. Okay? So, there needs to be conflicts that will be this trauma. The trauma is the revenue for the evil spirits. Because look, those that have the financial privilege, they maintain this privilege at the expense of the masses. So the masses need to be stressed out for them to preserve the financial privilege. Okay, hold on. I don't know why this camera keeps going out of focus, but anyway, it won't distract me further. And now I want to explain something else over here, between what privilege really is. A privilege is, well, I'm just over here, privilege. A privilege is consent from the masses. Okay? That's what privilege is. Let me explain. If you are born, if you're born in a village and you are a foreigner, and suddenly one day you marry one of the local women who's considered a prime female, if that village is racist, that will not happen. They'll either try to kill you, or they try to set you up, or they will ban both of you away because they don't want to see that around them. But if you are a local man, or you're a man from a community that's similar to theirs, then they may be okay with it. So privilege is about consent from the masses. The public allows you to enjoy a certain thing. They allow you to exist. That's privilege. So in society, the public, that means the masses, they consent to being abused. They consent to being oppressed. And their consent allows the quote-unquote upper class to have their financial privilege. So yes, the upper class uses satanic rituals to keep them traumatized. On the other hand, the masses can be left alone by blaming it all on the oppressors. The oppressors are oppressing, absolutely. But they can only continue the oppression on the long term if the masses are also in on it. All right? So, does that mean that automatically when there's privilege, that there are no victims? Well, there are victims, of course, when there's privilege somewhere. But you need to look at the full picture to understand what exactly is going on. Okay? So, now I want to briefly address this thing called white privilege and what it really is. All right, so let's remind yourself all of this over here. What is a thing called white privilege? What do they mean with it? They don't mean that everyone from European ancestry gets things easy in life, because that doesn't happen. Because if that was the case, everyone from European ancestry should be free from 9-to-5 jobs, and they should have luxury items at all their houses. And that's not the case. What do you mean with white privilege? Okay, let me explain this to you. White privilege refers, first let me explain white power to you. What they mean with white power. Okay, for that I'm going to erase this over here. I just want to elaborate on this issue before I close live stream, so to get this out of the way. But it's also a source of conflict that a lot of people use. Daily life, so okay, let me explain it to you. Okay. So in the Greek, yeah, so the Greek Empire, the central deity was Apollo. Okay? The Greek Empire later became the Roman Empire, and Apollo is this blonde, blue-eyed, white god. Okay? So white power refers to the political leverage of the government. Which government? The government of Greece, and later government of Rome, and eventually all the governments on the earth, because they all follow the example of the Greek Empire. And white is used as a classification of innocent and pure. Innocent, pure. Okay? So when they talk about white power, they talk about this political ideology of the Greek Empire, which they use to govern the world to this day. So white here does not refer to Europeans. Why? Because white power has been used to oppress Europeans throughout history. Think about ancient Rome. how they treated the ancient Germanic people. Look how they treat the ancient British people. Look at the Middle Ages, how they oppressed the peasants. So, white power refers to this political ideology from ancient Greece. Now, during the colonial era, they came with this concept called race, which comes from the Catholic Church. Race is a way to classify people based on your economic expectations of them. So race has to do with, hold on, economic estimates. Okay, let me say it like this. Let's say you're in Italy, okay? And in the south of Italy, you have a lot of people there are farmers and they're poor. And then you have the north of Italy, where you have most people living in cities, and the people live in cities, they trade a lot with the Germans, so they have a high income. So then you can say that North Italy is a race, and South Italy is a race. You can say the South Italians are a race of lazy people, that's why they're poor. And the Italians in the north, which trade a lot with the Germans, are a race of hardworking people, that's why they're rich. So race has to do with the economic estimate you have from a population. And in the colonial era, race became a way to classify ethnicities. Classify for example, if you are a South Asian, well, that's your ethnicity, you're South Asian. But then the British Empire would say, okay, you're all South Asians, but this group among South Asians, they're more hardworking, so they're classified similar to whites, and those there don't work that hard, so we don't benefit more from them, so they're classified as black. It had nothing to do with skin color, it had to do with the economic estimates. Now, when it comes to transatlantic slave trade, they use this to justify the enslavement of Africans. So racism refers to classifying ethnicities based on your economic estimates, what you expect them to bring forth to you. So it's a political ideology that's been advanced in the colonial era. In ancient times, you had no such thing as race. Okay? Whiteness was just referred to as symbolic justification for the government. In the colonial era, whiteness became a justification for the economic exploitation of Africans. So just understand this over here, from the Greek Empire all the way to the colonial era. So what is white privilege? Now, I'll explain what white power is. It's this political ideology from ancient Greece that they use till this day. White privilege is when European corporations grant benefits to their employees. So white privilege is European multinational corporations granting benefits, quote unquote, to their employees. And all the employees are expected to be people of European or Asian ancestry. All right? So when I talk about white privilege, let me write over down so you know what I'm talking about. This is what they're talking about. European multinational corporations giving benefits, as far as I can call them benefits, to the employees, and often expect the employees to be of European or Asian ancestry, just to validate the myth of whiteness, which is political ideology of ancient Greece. But now the question is it so that in reality, all employees from European and Asian ancestry, do they all get benefits from the multinational corporations. They don't. The benefits here don't refer to financial revenue because the employees, if they don't come to work, they're fired. Simple as that. The benefits here are symbolic. You get a pat on the back because at least you're part of the working crowd. You've been part of the working crowd that benefits the corporations. So the corporation gives you a pat on the back, so you do a good job. You're not like those poor Negroes over there or those Gypsies over there who don't want to work. So it's a symbolic benefit they give to employees. That's what white privilege is. That's it. Does this guarantee that you're better off in life? No. Because you're going to be working 40 or 60 hours a week, getting a pat on the back, and your health is going backwards because you work too much. Yes, you get a pat on the back because you are an employee of European or Asian ancestry. You may get a pat on the back symbolically, but does that benefit you? No, it doesn't. So white privilege is actually a scam used by European multinational corporations to prevent their employees from revolting against them. That's all it is. However, in society, especially in the United States, this is used as a term to cause conflict. Most people, even on YouTube, also in mainstream media, talk about white privilege. They have no background in anthropology nor sociology. So they don't know what they're talking about. So I just explained to you what white privilege really is, and I also use the history here for you, the history for you so you can see what's really about. It's devil worship, Greek idolatry, used in a modern day code. That's all it is. Okay, let me see if I found any questions over here. The thing is, this white privilege term causes conflict because it assumes an automatic better outcome for people of European ancestry. And that's not the case. Because the European corporations don't even care about their own European people. Because it's expected that they give the benefits to the Europeans and people from Asian ancestry, but they give for the actual benefits they give to themselves, and you get a pat on the back that won't benefit you for long. So, there's no use to fight this thing called white privilege because it's just a scam they use on Europeans and Asians to blind them from seeing that the corporations are exploiting them. I believe it was President Lyndon B. Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was this American president who says the best way to rob a white man is to convince him he's better than someone else around him. He'll even empty his pocket for you if you convince him he's superior to someone else just because he's part of your group. You can look at that quote up yourself. I believe it was President Lyndon B. Johnson of the United States who said it. That's the game they're playing. So, you don't fight white privilege because it's just a scam they're using. You just don't believe in the benefits they offer you. Unfortunately, many Asians and Europeans, also Africans, unfortunately believe in those benefits. I put in quotation marks because benefits don't even benefit you at all. Okay? So is it clear to you now what white privilege really is? If anything is unclear about white privilege, let me know now in the live chat. I can see it over there. Well, I see that there is a Greek bot over here trying to got distraction. So wherever this Greek bot is, you're blocked now. Okay, let me check it out. Wow. Okay? So, there is no such thing as fighting white privilege. You just have to stop believing it's fake benefits. All right? And this comes into this thing about equilibrium that I've been talking about. It's because imagine if those European corporations stopped using those fake benefits, handing out fake benefits to their employees. If that would stop, the employees realize, hold on a minute, we're being drained and exploited. What is this? Why are they always praising us being better off than Africa if, here's the thing, if in Africa you even have villages where you don't have to pay rent, and here's the truth, in Africa, in general, I'm not saying it's everywhere, that's like this everywhere, but in the continent of Africa, mainly sub-Saharan Africa, which you call Black Africa, but anyway, in sub-Saharan Africa, in many places, you have those villages where you can just go and stay there, you don't have to pay rent, they only ask you to do some course once in a while during the week. So you have a lot of young people in Africa, they will go to one of those villages to relax, and then they go back to the city to finish their studies. In Europe, I never encountered such arrangements. If you don't pay rent, you're homeless. So either you work or you're on welfare. And for you to go to school, you need to get a student loan, or you need to pay, or even if the education is free, something else required of you. So if you would eliminate white privilege, so you eliminate those fake benefits, the financial structure that the Dutch and British people established in the colonial era would crash immediately. Wall Street is a financial system established in the colonial era. And I'm going to explain that to you right now. So I'm going to erase this about white privilege over here. And I'm going to explain a little bit about about the current financial system that now try to replace. And that's the following. Hold on. How many of you heard of slave bonds before? Slave more. Slave insurance. Okay. Hold on. By the way, can you all see the whiteboard clearly? Let me know. How many of you have heard of slave bonds or slave mortgage or slave insurance? If you haven't, doesn't matter. But let me know, have you ever heard of these terms? Slave bonds, slave mortgage, and slave insurance. I'm going to explain them to you. I'm going to reveal to you one thing about the world financial system that I want you to figure out. Because it's quite embarrassing, but let me know if you ever heard of them. Okay. In short, I'm going to use an illustration to you. Let's say you're John, and you were born in the province of Virginia, which is then still part under British rule. And you go to the slave market. You just brought in Africans fresh from the continent. And you pay, let's say, several British pounds for a slave, who is a black woman, okay? She's 19 years old. Now, after purchasing her, you get a certificate of ownership. You go with a certificate of ownership to a local bank, or you go to a financial institution. There, they calculate, say, okay, this female Negro over here, she's 90 years old, she's fit, she's strong, so she's likely to give birth to more slaves. So in the future, you likely have 20 slaves because she will give birth a lot. So based on this estimate, we calculate that your revenue in the future will be around let's say, 500 pounds a year. I'm just making up an example here, just explain to you. So the main calculation is female slave will likely bring a revenue of $500 a year to you. So they write it down. This is the estimate that your property is worth. Okay? So because you have this slave, you're now entitled to get a loan of $300 or make a loan of 300 pounds. I mean, I was using pounds, I'm sorry. You may be allowed to loan 2,000 pounds. Why? Because based on estimates, you'll earn like 500 pounds a year. So if you loan 2,000 pounds, you can pay it back within 4 years. So a slave bond was security to get a loan. So what would happen is slave owners would purchase, I hate how it's called, but they would purchase Africans, or sometimes even Native Americans, or in rare exceptions, they would also purchase Asians or Irish people. And they would create a slave bond, which enabled them to loan money. And they would loan money from the banks or from the local governments, and then they would use the money to expand on their plantation. Sometimes they even would build local towns with it. So yes, a lot of towns in the United States began as plantations that expanded into towns later on. So that's a slave bond. A slave mortgage is, okay, let's say you have this boy of 5 years old who's a slave. Okay? Now this boy, which will become a grown man soon, they calculate, okay, your estate is worth around 10,000 pounds, and it can become 50,000 pounds if you discipline your slaves well. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to register your property, that's how they call slaves, your property over here. And if one day an accident happens or one of your slaves escape, you'll be entitled to get some insurance payment from us, if it's proven that you have everything good to keep your slaves. And that same insurance will also be used for you to pay off the debts of the slave bonds. So the slaves were the human capital in the colonial economy of the Netherlands, now back in the Dutch Empire, and Britain. That's how they did it. Now, when slavery was abolished in the early 19th century, it went from a human capital to human resource. Today, you have HR departments in many corporations. They don't say human capital, because if they say human capital, you immediately catch they're referring to you as a property. But no, that's why I say human resource today. It's a way to rename it a different way. Now, in the old era of colonialism, the slaves on a plantation or slaves on some estate became the human capital for bonds, mortgages, and insurances. And even corporations back then used them. This, however, had to be reformed, and now is in a form of human resource. Mortgages still exist. Insurance still exists. Even bonds still exist. But now, instead of slaves, you have employees or workers who are bonded corporations. So they modernized this system because it couldn't continue with the exploitation of Africans easily. So a lot of people today don't realize that the current financial system of the world is an extension and reform of the slave bonds and slave mortgages and slave insurances that the Dutch and British empires established in New York. New York was first called New Amsterdam, and then became New York. Oh, and by the way, when the Dutch arrived in Manhattan, they built a tiny village, but the Indians wouldn't even trade with them. There was this African man who had a Portuguese father, born in the Spanish colony Santo Domingo. He heard about this new settlement and he went there and began to trade. It was the trade of Juan Rodriguez, in Portuguese João Rodrigues, that made this Dutch settlement in Manhattan prosperous. What did the Dutch authorities do? Well, after 20 years, they evicted him, took all his wealth, and then called it New Amsterdam, as if they're the ones established it. But just look it up, Juan Rodriguez, you find out about it. So, exploiting human capital is what this financial system of the world is based on. But, okay, the old system of the transatlantic slave trade is gone, but how do you convince people to tolerate being semi-slaves today? Again, you get it. You give them benefits. Empty benefits. In this case, white privilege. Do you understand now why I explained all this history to you? So you understand now why they generated this hoax of white privilege. When I say white privilege is a hoax, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. What I'm saying is that term refers to benefits that aren't actually benefits. Now you know why they generate those fake benefits, is to hide this bloody history of the financial system. And to hide the fact that you are a semi-slave today on this financial system also. So, in this financial system, let me point out over here. This is the math, let me say like this. These are the 99%, these are the masses. You have the 1%, which are the elite. And the 99% they are divided into. Here you have the Africans. Hold on. Here you have the Africans. Here you have the non-Africans. And those Africans are paired with non-existent benefits. And the result is that from the masses, you have the people who receive the benefits, their ego is pumped up. They get this narcissistic supply that makes them be at ease, not realizing they're being oppressed. And now, when the Africans realize, why don't we get a pat on the back, or why don't we get all that praise? People say, well, you just need to work harder or whatever. And sometimes instead of Africans, you use just the local people who are oppressed. So this is the pyramid scheme that goes on in the world. So what do we do about this as a believer? As a believer, you need to see through all of this. And once you see through all of this, you realize that there's no way for you to be involved in this financial system and to remain clean. You will get dirty at some point. So what do we do as believers? We take charge of the financial circumstances in our lives on a spiritual level, and we use the system to dismantle the system in the long run. So instead of fighting the system, which is not really handy because this is based on psychological conditioning, thing is you use the corporate world just to drain it of its financial strength so you can do the will of God with financial strength you drain from them. That's how we need to operate. That's the way we need to operate as believers. You drain the corporate structure of its financial leverage. And while you do that, they lose their strength. And eventually we can use that financial strength we drain from them to do God's will. That's what we do. So, hold on. Let me remove this. All right. So now you also understand that the courthouses in this world are not there to bring justice, they're there to keep the balance of this conflict. So the situation in the world is like this, 2022. You have the, and I'm going to use a timeline right now, okay, for you to understand this. This is where we are now, 2022. It was 2019. This was 1619, 1602, 1444, 1500. Okay? Can you all see the timeline? Okay, if you can't see it, I'm going to have to enlarge the screen. Hold on. Okay, let me see. By the way, if you leave comments in the comment section, especially when it's Bible verse, let it be in context what's being told, please. Thank you very much. Hold on. So let me see. Maybe I should enlarge this. Hold on. Hold on. Can you all see it? Let me know. Hold on. Okay, good. So it goes like this. In 1444, Prince Henrique from Portugal built a slave dungeon in the Wida slave in West Africa, what they call the Wida slave coast or Judah. So this was a marginal trade. Around 1500 is when the colonial era began. Okay, let me zoom. Oh, you can see it clearly, okay? Namely by Spain and Portugal. And this also, from here to 1602, there was a conditioning of the masses that took place by the Catholic Church and also by the colonizers, into viewing Europe as the leaders of the world. There was also the Dutch revolt that happened back then. And the Dutch began to build their own fleet. 1602, the VOC or Dutch East Indies Company began, and they expanded, and in 1619 the slave trade became genocidal worldwide. And it was controlled by the Dutch then. And meanwhile, over here, you have a 400-year oppression. And here you have this, here around the 1680s, you had the Anglo-Dutch banking system that emerged, of which Wall Street is the main inheritance we have of it today. So this you consider was the warming up, 1444 till 1619, and 1619 the full oppression began. And around here somewhere you had the Haitian Revolution that was succeeded in 1804. Well, actually 1803, my bad. Then 1811 Spain abolished slavery in its empire, and 1833 slavery abolished worldwide by the British Empire. And from there on you had the corporate phase. phase that came into existence. 2019, the end of frontier cycle, and 2020, here you had the pandemic, and here we are in 2022. So, what goes on now is that it goes like this. What I show here is a negative tension they built up throughout the centuries. Around the Second World War, kind of broke down. What you show here is the negative tension that this oppression of Africans developed over time. Here it was kind of regular. 1619 it skyrocketed, and the financial system is based on draining the blood of Africans and other oppressed peoples just to keep the financial leverage to the elite. Now look at this. There's a lot of negative tension, and that's why you had the First World War and also Second World War just to unload some of the tension. But the Second World War backfired a lot. So what happens now is that all this tension now, that you see over here, until this frontier period was over, it used to be diverted to Africa and African neighborhoods. That is the siphoning that happens worldwide. Now this demonic pattern faded away in 2019. They didn't manage it well. So that's why at the end of 2019, you had this crisis that emerged that kind of overtook people worldwide. And this frontier were prophesied in the book of Genesis, and they came to an end. So this is the restoration era for the tribe of Judah that goes on right now, and that's the era we're in now. This is the restoration era that anyone can tap into if we follow God's will. All right? So, this is the traumatic tension developed throughout the decades and centuries. It skyrocketed, and this is the load that you have on now. Normally the load will be discharged onto Africa or the African neighborhoods or to local oppressed people if Africa's not around. But now this siphoning doesn't happen easily. That's why the world is crashing at the moment. So do you understand now why the current situation is the way it is? It didn't begin with Wuhan. It didn't begin with WHO. It's an accumulation of violence throughout the centuries. Let me know the live chat. So, if you get involved with the financial system of this world, you are getting involved with this load of psychic tension that's hanging around on the earth. That's what you're getting involved with. And that's why believers are resisted from being financially prosperous, because when believers become financially prosperous, whether you're Judean or Gentile, doesn't matter, when a believer becomes financially prosperous, you become a threat to this demonic supply over here. Because this demonic supply that keeps the world at ease. But as long as they can redirect all the tension towards the scapegoats. But because the pattern has faded away, it has been broken, now you have this escalation going on. And right now they keep trying to bring back the old pattern of the frontiers period, but it doesn't come back. So as a believer, that's why the Heavenly Father does not want you to rely on society. The Heavenly Father does not want you to agree with society. The Heavenly Father wants you to agree with Christ, and from within, abundance will flow out into your environment, and if necessary, you'll take advantage of the financial structures around you, but you won't be subject onto them. Is this all clear to you? Let me know in the live chat. So, crime will be here till Jesus comes back. Okay? White supremacy will be here till Jesus comes back, because that Greek ideology will not disappear anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that believers have to just sit back. We just have to walk by faith, walk in abundance, so we can overrule this whole system. Hope that's clear to you. Now, this is the end of the live stream, so I'm going to allow you the chance to ask questions. So if you have any questions related to this topic, let me know in the live chat, please. Thank you very much. Thanks for the $2 donation, SP. Very much appreciated. So if you have any questions, let me know now. I'll wait for a minute. If I don't get any questions within a minute, I'll close down the live stream. That's true, Joanna. That's why the school system plays such a role in determining social class. Because the thing is, the present-day school system is based on Prussian militarism. You get me? The present-day school system comes from the Prussian military that became dominant after the fall of Napoleon in Europe. I don't know why people are calling me now and doing the live stream, but I'm not going to pick up the phone. So, are there any other questions? Are there any questions? Let me know. Oh, before I close, just for sure, Prussian militarism is like this. Look up Prussian online and about the Kingdom of Prussia. The Kingdom of Prussia took over the other German countries, became the German Empire in 1870. And the German Empire became a republic in 1918, I believe. Became a confederacy, and then later it turned into Nazi Germany. And later, the German Empire was dissolved. The Prussia was dissolved also. Germany as a country emerged, divided into Germany became one later on. But Prussian militarism, look it up. That's the root of the modern day school system. Prussian militarism is all about breaking your mind on the military level so that you become a yes sir, yes man individual. That's what the school system is based on. Just so you know. All right. Okay, I didn't receive any more questions. Thank you all for being here. Keep on agreeing with Christ, and I'll see you next time.